Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a long overdue episode of World of Tanks with your good old uncle, your creepy bearded psychopath, Gitbag the Great. Now, I know I haven't done a World of Tanks episode in a long time, and considering that I've just been away for a week in Greece, I figured now was as good as time and as any really to give you a nice old episode of World of Tanks. This isn't going to be a massive one either, it's just a couple of replays of me and my premium German tank destroyers, so nothing too extensive, but at the same time here's a couple of really quite fun replays I had just a little bit before I left for Greece about a week ago. I had a really good time in Greece, of course. You guys could probably see it from the vlog I uploaded of it in a couple of days ago, of course. Might have been, yeah. Can't quite remember. Was it a couple of days ago? Roughly, give or take. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that vlog, by the way. I mean, if you want to see more stuff like that, let me know. Just let me know and tell me and like and sub and comment and all that good stuff. But let me know if you do like that sort of stuff, and so I'll know how to make your guys' enjoyment of this channel a little bit more pleasing, shall we say. But I think now that I'm back from Greece, and even though I did manage to pre-upload a couple of videos for when I was in Greece, I figured, considering now that I'm actually back in Britain, now would be as good a time as any, really, to upload an episode of a series that I've kind of been neglecting for quite a while, I suppose. I mean, World of Tanks was the thing I originally came onto YouTube to do videos of, way back in late 2013, early 2014, so I figured, what the hell, I'll try and revitalise the series, try and sort of put in another episode of it after so long. I mean, I've built my channel off of doing these kind of videos, so I figured, why not? But first off, we've got a really quite entertaining replay of me here in the Dickermax, the Tier 6 German tank destroyer on Siegfried Line, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, the one defining feature about the Dickermax is its gun de-elevation, aside from, of course, its big 105mm high velocity anti-tank gun that is great for just punching through the front of heavy tanks. This thing is a very much a sort of a tier 6 tank with basically a tier 5 or 4 chassis and a tier 8 gun. It is a brutally powerful tank destroyer, very low rate of fire for a tank destroyer of its tier, but great penetration and armour penetration and damage for a tank of its tier at the same time as well. And as you can hear, that punchiness of the 105mm gun is just truly something else. I mean, it gives you ammo racks when you don't even need them. I mean, that Panzer IV was pretty much dead anyway. I could just sneeze at the guy and he was pretty much dead, and yet it just decides, oh, I'm going to give you an ammo rack so you can get the explosive sort of medal after the match. But yeah, the Dickermax, on account of it having what is basically a tier 4 or 5 or so chassis, means that its armour is pretty much non-existent. You do not want to get into frontal slogging fights with any tank of any sort, really, because most, if not all, tanks in the game can penetrate this thing. It has about as good armour, if not worse, than that Hellcat over there, and so hence the reason why I was so reticent to go toe-to-toe with the Hellcat, even if it was over a considerable distance like that one right there. The one thing the Hellcat does have over the Dickermax, of course, is its rotating turret and greater manoeuvrability, not to mention higher rate of fire. But the Dickermax does have longer range accuracy and DP and alpha damage per shot, so take that as you will, I suppose. The Dickermax, I feel, is a bit more stealthier, mainly because it doesn't have a rotating turret. It's a fixed gun, but at the same time, like I said before, it benefits from having a fixed gun because its gun de-elevation is so far. You can literally poke your gun over massive hills and fire down into the tops of heavy tanks sometimes, and I've been able to rack up some impressive tallies at times with such situations using the Dickermax. Its main defining feature, I think, is, of course, its gun, and realistically nothing else, because its camouflage is okay. It's actually quite good camouflage value, and the armour is just non-existent. It's not very manoeuvrable, it's not quick, But its gun is unbelievable, and its gun handling stats are very good as well. It's got great accuracy, great range, great armor penetration value. It's got decent DPM, great alpha for a tank destroyer of its tier, and its range is just unbelievable compared to tank destroyers of the same tier. So if you have the coins and the gold to get this thing, I would definitely recommend it. It's a great little machine, and I've said so before. I just would say that the main thing you have to do is keep it at a distance, because it is one that is probably the least brawly sort of machine I could think of in the entire game, really. Comes at least above tier 5. Fortunately, I was able to take out that 82, which is definitely a brawly machine, but only because I managed to get behind it. I can penetrate the 82 from the front in a certain few places, but at the same time it's not easy, because its weak points aren't that big, and it is incredibly heavily armoured from the front, with about 200 or so millimetres of armour at the front. Curved as well, remember, and the fact that it's quite a small target also helps. So the 82 is one of the sort of bogey tanks for the Dicamax, but the Dicamax is still, regardless, a marvellous machine to use in long-range shooting situations, and the Siegfried Line map is quite good for that. I mean, the city bit is really a bit of a hazard for this machine, but at the same time, like you could see there when I was near the little lake bit there back a few minutes ago, when I was taking on that T-67 and the Hellcat, the gun de-elevation and the range of this thing really comes into its own. You have to treat this thing primarily as a sniper, but you can be a bit cheeky with it, how you poke over ridge lines and stuff like that, as you saw with that Hellcat. I did get a bit unlucky with some of the shots I fired over that lake, but at the same time, more often than not, you will hit your target with this thing if you just wait a second or so, because it aims reasonably fast. That's one of the few things I would, although, kind of criticise about the gun handling stats on this thing. The aim time isn't the best. The accuracy is great on this gun, but the gun handling stats could be slightly better. Even still though, this is quite a large caliber gun to fit on a machine like this, so I'm not going to complain too much really, because like I said, its accuracy, alpha damage and its armor penetration value is amazing. It's a superb gun. It's really kind of like, for me, I'd say probably kind of like two mid-tier tank destroyers, what, say, I don't know, Patrol Cannon or the T-28 R2, you know, higher tier tank destroyers. I mean, you know, one specific good thing about its hull or its maneuverability and everything else about that in regards to it is kind of oh so, and then the gun is just amazing. Like the T-28, great frontal armor, not great maneuverability, great gun. Troll Cannon, great gun, bit temperamental in its accuracy, great forward speed, but pants armor. This thing, good traverse speed, not that maneuverable overall, awful armor, but an amazing gun for its tier. So I would definitely recommend getting the Dicamax, and fortunately enough, as you could see where I got those two Amarax and two other sort of notably decent kills, I ended up getting a ace tanker, surprisingly, in that game. So that was a very fortuitous match. I think more so than anything, the thing that managed to help me get my ace tanker was my manoeuvring, because you saw a bit during when I was kind of like trying to snipe over the lake, my tank was being bombarded by artillery, so the timing of where you place your machine is paramount as much as the stealth and the gun capabilities of the Dicamax are, in accordance to how much it can punch through the armour of any machine or how manoeuvrable it is. So while this thing isn't manoeuvrable, you do have to take care of where you sit, much like with any real sort of sniper weapon. So do be careful, don't just sit in the same spot, manoeuvre around after every, I don't know, 2 or 3 shots, or if you start getting bombarded by artillery, because remember, this thing is pretty much made out of metallicized paper mache, so don't sit around like a donut in this. One machine, however, that does make up for this in some similar way for having light armor with its with another aspect of its being is is a considerably bit more rarer than the Decamax these days. That very same tank, of course, being the mighty E25, a tank no longer now in the gift shop, considering the fact that it is noticeably overpowered even after the many nerfs on this little bastard of a machine, this little demon of a German tier 7 premium tank destroyer. This thing was evil when it was on sale in the gift shop, and they only removed it a few months ago as well from said gift shop for probably good reason, to be honest. I mean, this thing is quite overpowered, and even after the many nerfs that Wargaming have levied on it, it is still a brutal tank destroyer. It's less so of a sniper like, say, the Decamax, and more so a hard-hitting, accurate, semi-sniping ranger sort of machine. It's not so much a sniper as it more is a raider sort of thing. You can use it to hold down lines, but you can't really get into slogging matches, kind of like the Decamax. But at the same time, unlike the Decamax, it is much quicker, much more manoeuvrable machine that's more capable of getting into tricky situations like this, and its manoeuvrability is second to none. If you want a tank destroyer that's more like a Lancer or a sort of a Raider sort of thing, this is the machine for you. Unfortunately, like I said, you can't really get it in the gift shop anymore, which is a bit sad, because this thing is a barrel of fun. Although, to be honest with you, if it was anything like the epidemic when the T-59 was on sale in the gift shop back in the olden days of World of Tanks, back in, like, 2012, 2011, then I think a few people would be in certain uproar about it. But even still, I've loved this machine ever since I got it. It is an absolute blast to play with. A little bit lightweight, so you do have a much greater chance of flipping this over than something like, say, the Decamax, which is of course much slower and considerably heavier. The main difference between the guns here is the fact that the Decamax has a much slower rate of fire, but higher alpha, whereas this thing has a much higher rate of damage per minute, or DPM as some might call it, considerably greater accuracy and aiming time, and a much higher rate of fire. It has a very considerably lower caliber 75mm gun, but the 75mm gun on this thing does have great armor penetration and an amazing sense of accuracy and rate of fire. So yeah, and there of course is the evidence of the fact that this thing is basically as light as a packet of crisps, and if you don't treat it properly it will behave badly. As you can see, I almost capsized my machine completely. But this is what I mean about the rate of fire of this thing. Even when a tank like that VK, which I failed to save unfortunately, even when something like that is cornered by enemy tanks, you can really rain down the fire, the supporting fire, in a big way because of just how fast this thing fires. I would say more than anything it's kind of like a support tank. It's a rapid support tank capable of running to bits of the battlefield and pumping a good several million shots into the arses of heavy tanks before they even know what hit them, before they even know what day it is, and have forgotten that they just had to have their teeth brushed. So yeah, I'd say if this thing does come out on an offer or a challenge, try and grab it up, because it is still a barrel of laughs. But I can't, disagree entirely with Wargaming's reasons for removing it from the gift shop. It's quite ridiculous, as you saw there when I just ripped apart those two Chinese T-34s. Although, like I said, it is balanced out by the fact that its alpha is pretty pony, and its lightweight nature does lend to some slightly hilarious but also hair-raising moments where you're highly likely to flip this thing over if you're not careful with driving it. And you might be reticent to do so because, to be honest with you, this thing is blindingly quick and highly manoeuvrable, and it's a very small tank with a very low profile, so you're probably going to want to ride around like a speed freak anyway. As you can see there, I managed to do so and get into a great position to just wreck that Bert and that Achilles. And Achilles, of course, I got a nice little arsonist on, so that's always tasty. This bit, actually, this kind of scared me here, right? I tried to put a shot into the T-150, ended up tracking him. The T-34 backed up and I almost thought I'd hit him in the turret. Instead, it just managed to sail right over his turret and hit the T-150 in the turret. And killed the T-150. To be honest with you though, something that did kind of plague me throughout these two replays, I thought, was the fact that my RNG was a little bit clunky. shall we say, because I kept missing shots that I should have hit, or just burying them into opponents' tracks, and I feel that happened a bit more in the Dipmax replay. You guys can tell me what you think, but I don't know, it just seems like while I've been getting really good games like this, like getting a Top Gun here, getting an ace tank in the Dipmax replay, I just feel like my RNG luck has been a bit questionable, shall we say, recently. It's not been the worst, of course, but it's been odd. This bit, however, was probably the most intense part of the game. I thought the M12 was going to try and come around to shotgun me, and then I sort of kind of dilly-dally around this radar bit for a second, only for the SU-100 to come out and plant another shot right into my front. Yeah, he must have had the 100mm gun, because if he'd had the 122mm gun, I would have been dead already. I mean, the guy hit me quite soundly, and if he had the 122mm gun, I think he would have just wrecked me completely. Fortunately enough, while I was very low on health, I think if I was in any other tier 7 tank destroyer, I would be dead at this point, because I just managed to manoeuvre underneath his gun and keep him spotted for my own tank destroyers on my team. Fortunately enough, this thing, while not having the gun de-elevation of the Dipmax, is quick and nimble enough to, and low profile enough to, nip over the tops of ridges and pump little shots here and there into tanks like that. Again, probably not the best driving I've ever done. In all honesty, the driving in that match was a bit crap from me, as you saw when I nearly capsized the bloody thing, but I think that should just show how much of an absolute terror the E25 is. Two mid-tier German tank destroyers, both premiums, that operate very, very differently. So keep that in mind. There are some tank destroyers out there like the E25 who are very nimble and Lancer-like, and kind of more like act like raider machines, like the Jagdpanther 2 or the Jagdpanther 1 or the SU-122 44 or things like that. But then there are also more snipery, sort of far less manoeuvrable, much more campy sort of tank destroyers like the Dipmax, like the Jagdtiger, like the like the M36 Jackson, those sort of things. So keep that in mind. Don't always pick one way to play your tank destroyers. And you know, when you're in a quick, nimble tank destroyer like the SU-122-44 or the E25, don't just run around like an absolute speed freak. Do take care with your driving, and when you're riding around in a tank destroyer like the Dipmax or the Jagdtiger, don't just sit in one spot. You are a sniper machine. You're not supposed to go into a brawling setup, but at the same time, don't just sit in one spot. If you're suddenly spotted, move, and if you come under artillery fire, get the hell out of there. So I hope at least this machinimous, I don't know, this little video has helped to show you how tank destroyers operate in certain different styles depending on what kind of tank destroyer it is, and just how marvellous the E25 and the Dipmax are. And again, sorry if this was a little bit short on the content and length side of things, but at the same time, I've just gotten back from Greece. I'm still a bit jet lagged, and to be honest with you, I actually planned on doing this video for a while, because these replays did happen just before I went off to Greece, so I hope you guys did enjoy this. I know it's a bit of a simple, straightforward video, but I figured now is as good a time as any to bring back the World of Tanks content. So, again, tell me if you enjoyed this video. As always, leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And until next time, have fun, stay safe, take care, don't do anything I wouldn't do, and until next time, I've been Gitbag the Great, and I'll see you guys on the battlefield.